Good morning, Boyle County 5th grader. Today I'll be reading March 27th NTI Day. Your NTI Day Daily Overview. Math, page 3 through 8. Reading, page 9 through 13. Writing, page 14 through 18. Social Studies, page 19 through 23. And Library, page 24. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. In mathematics, lesson overview. Learning target. I can estimate sums, differences, and products by rounding. Daily learning plan. This lesson will focus on the foundations of the place value system, specifically the application of rounding. In this lesson, you will estimate sums, differences, and products. In order to be successful in this lesson, you will need to follow each of the steps in the learning plan below. Today you will read the provided notes, page 4 through 5, to gain understanding for today's learning target. Complete the learning target practice, page 6 through 7. Using the notes from today's learning target, answer each of the questions. To show your understanding of today's learning target, complete all parts of the practice. This is an opportunity to engage the content to gain a deeper understanding of what we are doing. Complete the exit slip, page 8, to demonstrate your understanding of today's learning target. Mathematics. Estimating is a process used to determine an approximate answer. By rounding one or both numbers provided, you are able to find a relatively close answer. This skill is useful in building your number sense. While estimating will not provide an accurate answer, it has the ability to give you an answer close. Estimating builds number sense and helps you better gauge the correctness of a sum, difference, or product. Round each number to the hundreds place and estimate the sum. 394 plus 418. First, read the directions provided. You will want to be sure to round to the appropriate place. This will be found in the question. If not, what is a reasonable place? If you were asked to multiply 284 times 6, it's unlikely rounding to the nearest 10 will make the multiplication problem more brain-friendly, 280 times 6. Whereas rounding to the nearest 100 would be a great way to estimate the product, 300 times 6. So round each number to the hundreds place and estimate the sum. 394 plus 418 equals. Next, round each number. Round each number to the hundreds place and estimate the sum. 394 plus 418 becomes 400 plus 400. Finally, solve the problem with the rounded numbers. This should be a more brain-friendly version of the problem to allow you to do it mentally. Round each number to the hundreds place and estimate the sum. 394 plus 418 became 400 plus 400 equals 800. While 800 is not the answer, you can say the sum is about 800 as an estimate. In fact, if you find the sum of 394 and 418, you would get 812, which is very close to the estimated sum. Let's practice. Round the following numbers to the thousands place and estimate the answer. 7,255 plus 3,714 equals. Round the following numbers to the hundreds place and estimate the answer. 1,451 subtract 838 equals. Now solve the problem. How close was your estimate? Round the following numbers to the tens place and estimate the answer. 251 plus 29 equals. Now solve the problem. How close was your estimate? Round the following numbers to the 10,000s place and estimate the answer. 28,251 subtract 9,725 equals. Now solve the problem. How close was your estimate? Round the first number to the hundreds place and estimate the answer. 1,451 times 3 equals. Now solve the problem. How close was your estimate? Round the first number to the 10,000ths place and estimate the answer. 28,251 times 5 equals. Solve the problem. How close was your estimate? Hagen and Brady were comparing their baseball card collections. After counting their cards, they determined Hagen has 872 Pokemon cards and Brady has 414 Pokemon cards. Explain the importance of estimating sums, differences, and products. How does this skill help you become a more effective mathematician? Learning target assessment. Learning target. I can estimate sums, differences, and products by rounding. Number 1. Round each number to the nearest hundred and find the estimated sum. 2,431 plus 1,805 equals A. 3,000, B. 4,500, C. 4,200, or D. 5,000. Number 2. Preparing to bake some cookies for a bake sale at school, Taylor bought 3 dozen eggs at Kroger. When she got home, she found another half dozen in her refrigerator. Estimate how many eggs she has altogether. A. About 40 eggs, B. About 35 eggs, C. About 42 eggs, or D. About 30 eggs. Estimate the product of 1,188 by 4 times 4 by first rounding the 4-digit number to the nearest thousand. Explain how you know your estimated product is reasonable. Reading. Lesson overview. Learning target. I can summarize the text. Daily learning plan. This packet focuses on summarizing a fiction text, specifically the strategies of how to summarize. In this lesson, you will learn the strategy of somebody wanted, but so, then. In order to be successful in this lesson, you will need to follow each of the steps in the learning plan below. Today you will read the provided notes, page 10, to gain understanding for today's learning target. Complete the learning target practice, page 11 through 12. Using the notes from today's learning target, answer each of the questions. To show your understanding of today's learning target, complete all parts of the practice. This is an opportunity to engage the content to gain a deeper understanding of what we are doing. Complete the exit slip to demonstrate your understanding of today's learning target. Reading. I can summarize the text. Summarize strategy. Use the story mountain and answer these questions. Somebody. Who is the main character? Wanted. What did the character want? But what was the problem? So, how did the character try to solve the problem? And then, what was the resolution of the story? Somebody wanted, but so then. The conflict, the rise in action, the climax, and the resolution and theme. Somebody wanted, but so then. Let's practice. Read the following passage and determine the best summary. Nora sped along the sidewalk on her bike. The sweet smell of spring was in the air. That meant school would be out in 2 months. Nora could hardly wait. She rounded the corner and glanced into Mrs. Bob's front yard. Her name wasn't really Mrs. Bob. Her husband's name was Bob, and everyone called him that. Mrs. Bob became her nickname since their last name was impossible to say, let alone remember. Mrs. Bob was an amazing gardener. Her front yard was positively blooming in the spring. Nora always enjoyed peeking her nose through the front gate to smell the beauty. This time, though, Nora noticed that something was wrong. Mrs. Bob's garden was a mess. Dead leaves and small branches littered the walkway. The grass was overgrown, and the hedges were in need of a trim. Nora hesitated. Then she went boldly up to the front door and knocked. Mr. Bob came to the door. Answering Nora's questions, he explained that Mrs. Bob had taken a bad fall that winter. She had broken her hip and was still recovering. The gardens would have to wait, he said, sighing sadly. Nora had a plan. She talked with her parents and rallied the neighbors. The next Saturday, they descended on Mrs. Bob's front yard. They raked and hoed and weeded. They bought all of Mrs. Bob's favorite flowers and spent the afternoon planting. Neighbors who had barely seen each other all winter were chatting and laughing together. Mrs. Bob herself even came to the front window, astonished. She waved and laughed. Mr. Bob said he hadn't seen her smile like that in months. Nora was so proud of her neighborhood that day. Which is the best summary for this passage? A. Mr. Bob was upset about his wife and the neighbors helped with his front yard. B. Mrs. Bob got hurt and Mr. Bob had the neighbors clean up his yard. C. Nora was on her bike and then cleaned up Mr. Bob's yard. Or D. Nora noticed Mrs. Bob's yard was not as beautiful as it usually looked, so she got the neighbors to work together to rake and weed. It cheered Mrs. Bob up to see how it looked. If you answered D, then you are right. The character that we are following in this passage is Nora. She noticed that there was an issue with Mrs. Bob's yard, and she got the neighbors together to work on the yard for Mr. and Mrs. Bob. In the end, the yard looked great, and it pleased Mrs. Bob to see the work the neighbors had done and how wonderful her yard looked. So D is the best answer. Franklin loved to play checkers, but he wasn't a very good sport. If his piece was jumped, he would huff and pout. If he had to crown another player, he would slam his pieces on the table. If he lost, well, you wouldn't want to see what happened when he lost. Sometimes the checkerboard went flying. It's no wonder that, after a few months, Franklin ran out of checker partners. His friends would play hopscotch and cards with him, and they would ride bikes. When he pulled out the checkerboard, though, his friends would politely excuse themselves. One day, he decided to ask Fonda, his big sister, to play. She wasn't a very good sport either. I don't have time to play right now, Franklin. I'm working on a book report, Fonda said. Well, boo, what am I supposed to do? I want to play checkers now. Don't get in a huff, Franklin. Come with me. Fonda put him in front of her computer, and on the screen was a giant checkerboard. Now you can get as mad as you want. You're playing a computer, and computers don't care, Fonda explained. Franklin was so happy, he found the perfect checkers partner for a bad sport like him. Number 1, write a summary of this passage. Writing. Lesson overview. Learning target. I can write an opinion piece on a topic supporting my point of view with reasons and evidence. Weekly learning plan. This week we'll focus on opinion writing. This is your opportunity to practice the power of using your thoughts to effectively communicate your opinion. In order to allow you to work on the different elements of a complete writing piece, each day has its own focus. By Thursday, you will have a completed opinion piece and be ready to try one in one sitting on Friday. This week you will, on Monday, read the prompt and create a plan using a graphic organizer, Foursquare. This is your chance to brainstorm ideas and design the flow of your piece. Tuesday, write the introduction. Be sure to grab your reader's attention with a great hook and state the purpose of your writing piece. Wednesday, write the body of your piece using strong supporting details such as examples, explanations, and experiences. Make your plan come alive in your piece. Thursday, write your conclusion. This is your chance to bring all of your thoughts to an end and leave the reader thinking. Friday, practice a new prompt and complete it all at one time. Time yourself. Try to complete it in 30 minutes. Writing the prompt. Learning target. I can write an opinion piece on a topic, supporting my point of view with reasons and evidence. Read the following prompt. Write your response to the writing prompt in the space provided. Set a timer and try to complete this prompt in 30 minutes. Remember, today's expectation is to complete the entire prompt. Writing situation. You and your family have planned a vacation, which will include a trip to the city for a cultural educational experience. Your parents and family would like your input in making a decision. Writing directions. Write an email to the principal presenting your opinion on whether or not children should be allowed to sit with friends at different tables in the cafeteria. Use facts and details to support your opinion. This is your pre-writing workspace. Social Studies, Lesson Overview. Learning Target. I can explain ways that Native Americans adapt to the environment. Daily Learning Plan. This packet focuses on the foundations of Native Americans' ability to adapt to their surrounding environment. In order to be successful in this lesson, you will need to follow each of the steps in the learning plan below. Today you will read the provided notes, page 20 through 21, to gain understanding for today's learning target. Complete the learning target practice, page 22, using the notes from today's learning target. Answer each of the questions. To show your understanding of today's learning target, complete all parts of the practice. This is an opportunity to engage the content to gain a deeper understanding of what we are doing. Complete the exit slip, page 23, to demonstrate your understanding of today's learning target. Social Studies, Learning Target Notes. Learning Target. I can explain ways that Native Americans adapt to the environment. In this picture, here, an Inuit family sits in front of their camp at Plover Bay in northern Alaska. Inflated seal skins hang from the wooden poles on the tent frame. The Inuit attached inflated sealskins to harpoons and used them as floats. Adaptations are changes in a way of life that allow people to survive in a particular environment. 2.5 Native American adaptations to the environment. Native Americans had to adapt their way of life to their surroundings. Each group had to find ways to use the available natural resources wisely so that it could survive in its particular environment. One group that lived in a very harsh environment was the Inuit, who are also known as Eskimos. Like many Native Americans, the Inuit called themselves by a name that means the people. The Inuit lived in northwestern Alaska, northern Canada, and Greenland, places that are part of the Arctic. The Arctic ice fields are a place of a long, cold winters and land that is frozen most of the year. The Inuit had to make special adaptations to their harsh environment. They hunted animals such as whales, walruses, seals, salmon, caribou, polar bears, Arctic foxes, squirrels, and birds. The Inuit did not waste any part of the animals they captured. They ate the meat. They sewed animal skins together to make clothing, blankets, and tents. They burned animal fat for fuel. They used bones to make dog sleds and tent frames. They also carved bones into tools such as knives and harpoons, long spears. The Inuit even learned to fill sealskins with air so that they would float. They attached the skins to walruses or whales that they had harpooned. These floats helped to tire out the animals when they tried to escape by diving underwater. To build shelters, the Inuit used the materials that they found around them. In the summer, they made tents by stretching the skins of caribou or seals over driftwood. Sometimes they placed heavy stones or pieces of bone at the bottom of a tent to keep it in place. In the winter, they built houses called igloos out of snow and ice. Driftwood is wood that has been washed up onto the shores of rivers or oceans. To keep warm, the Inuit dressed in animal skins and furs. To protect their eyes from the bright glare of the sun shining on snow and ice, they made snow goggles. Snow goggles were made from bone or wood and had narrow openings to look through. The Inuit spread black soot, ashes from fires, on the inside to keep light from shining in their eyes. Chapter Summary. In this chapter, you learned about the first people who lived in North America. You used the idea of a zoom lens to take a closer look at Native Americans and their surroundings. The first Native Americans came to North America from Asia during the last ice age. Over hundreds of years, Native Americans migrated to many different environments in North and South America. Wherever Native Americans settled, they had to adapt to their environment. You zoomed in on 4 environments to compare their climates, vegetation, and natural resources. The Inuit were a group of Native Americans who lived in the Arctic environment. Using the natural resources they found around them, the Inuit made several adaptations to this harsh environment in order to survive. For thousands of years, groups of Native Americans were the only people in North America. How were their ways of life similar and different? How were they able to adapt to the very different environments you read about in this chapter? You will find out in the next chapter. Native American adaptations to the environment. Summary. Word bank: adapt, Inuit, animals, and shelter. Let's see what you know. To show your understanding of this lesson's learning target, complete each of the questions below by selecting the correct answer. Be mindful, this is an opportunity to prove your understanding. Good luck. Explain ways that Native Americans adapted to the weather. What is the most likely reason that Native American tribes built their villages near water? A, because the land was flat. B, because they could grow trees. C, because they could use the water as a resource to gather food. Or D, because they did not want to be close to other tribes. Library Lesson Overview. Private and personal information. In a world where more and more information is being shared online, when is it appropriate to share our private and personal information? Discuss. What are the differences between private and personal information? Glue or write the statements in the table. Private, personal. Your email address, whether you are a boy or a girl, your age, your full name, how many brothers or sisters you have, your address, your credit cards, your pet's name, your mother's maiden name, your passwords, your favorite TV program, your phone number, your opinions, and your favorite food. And that concludes March 27th NTI Day. If you have any questions, contact your teachers.